This is a grid that I put on the back of one of the fabrics to try to create a lot of half square triangles. It has two pieces of material, one down, one up, so pretty sides facing. And I did 2-inch grid all the way across it. Then what I did is I drew the lines in here on every other one and went back and did them this way so that I end up with these. I'm going to attempt to sew it starting here on the outside of the line and go around continuously until I come back around and go through all of these intersections on both sides of these diagonal lines. Once that's done, then I will cut on the grid lines again, the squares. Sewing here on the outside 1/4 of an inch, and I'll see if I can do it continuously. If I can, this might be a really cool way to do half square triangles. I'm using here for these two pieces of material are fat 8s. So this is what we got after we sewed it. I know I used white thread, it might be hard to see, but they came up through the intersections here. I started down here and went this way and then up, and I'm actually going to put it back down here so we can see it. I hope I got you in the camera. So I started right down here. I stitched up here. I've got about a little over a 1/8 of an inch seam here. I was a little bit off. I probably should have checked it somewhere else. And when I pivoted, I went up this way. When I got up here, when you hit the line, you want to pivot with your needle down, come down here, all the way down to here, comes down to here, you pivot, keep going up, down, up. You can do this pretty much continuously. I'll show you the couple of spots right here. This is where you come up to here and you get to the very corner here. Let's pull it in here where we can see. And I had to go up to the line. I pivoted and then I came down 1/4, actually almost a 1/2 an inch. Pivoted again to bring it down through here. And I had two corners like that. So then we keep going down here, up. It's kind of a neat way of doing it. I'm not sure how they're going to cut apart. If my seams are going to be a lot wobbly, because they were when I was sewing, I had to sew on the left side. I had to line it up on the left side of my needle, which kind of got me because all my markings are on the right side. And again, this is the other corner over here. So we had two corners that were like that. I came up to the line, pivoted, went almost a 1/2 an inch, pivoted again, and brought it down. As for time saving, I don't know. And now I'm back to the starting point. It was quite a bit of sewing, it seemed like. I'm used to using scraps, so I'll start with a 2.5 inch square, 5 inch square, whatever I'm doing, and just sew two together with, I'll put a line through the middle of the square, and then I'll sew on either side of that line and then cut them apart because a lot of what I do is scraps, and that's what I have to work with. I did want to try something that would be much bigger and give me a lot more triangles. All right, we are going to cut on the grid lines. So those are the first squares, the first lines that we drew on here. They go this way and then they go this way. Should you lift your ruler? I'm going to go back and cut these ones here. We'll start by taking these pieces off. Don't want to move these yet because I'm not certain. Oh, I missed a line over here. It's that line right there. So let's go back and get that. And I missed a line down there. So make sure you cut out your edge all the way around. We're going to have to cut some of these. So what this does is it leaves us with 4 little triangles, or 4 little squares. We need to cut down through the diagonal here. I'm not sure. I think what I might do is, let's see if we can line some of these up and do them all at once. If not, you may have to do them separately. It looks like a pretty good line there. You can keep them from not moving around. You should be able to do them just like I'm doing them. I'm cutting between the 2 seams here to create the actual half square triangles. If not, if they move around too much on you, you can pick up the individual squares. Let's see if I can show you here. You can pick up the individual squares and cut, or stitched on either side, cut right down the middle. Take a little bit more doing because you'll have to do each one individually. But if you can probably do it this way. Let's try and put that square back in there where it was. We'll go back and do this, all of these diagonals here. when we're all done, we should have a lot of half square triangles. Now, my grid pattern on this was 2 inches. So they should come out to be 1.5 inch triangles. Or half square triangles. So if we pick one up, looks like it's got a pretty good seam allowance there. I was off a little bit on the line. I did mark this with a ballpoint because I'm practicing on this, and I wanted to be able to see the lines. Some of them were done with pencil, and I didn't think I could see them that great. So I grabbed a ballpoint pen and did it with that. So let's open it up and see what we got. There's a little half square triangle. I'm going to press it open. Let's push this out of the way because that's a lot of half square triangles. I think let's go with a smaller piece. Depending upon what I was doing. So let's get a little square and see what we come up with for a measurement on this. So, like I said, I just finger press this open. And let's see what we can get. Okay, it's giving me a little bit extra because I want to do 1.5 inch squares because I'm really liking my small things. So I'm going to do 1.5 inches. It's got quite a bit left over there. And then I want to go to the 1/2 inch mark there. So let's put this on our line and cut that off. So there is a little bit that we've got here that we can square up on to make them 1.5 inch. They would not come out to 2 inches, but we'll go with the 1.5. If you don't want to square these up to 1.5 inches, they should come out to almost all the same sizes. We'll check them in a minute. And you can just take the dog ears off. But there you go. There's a nice little half square triangle. You have a little mark on there. Don't know if it'll show. It could. But again, like I said, this was a practice thing to see if I could do these with a larger piece of material. They do work. It does work. I'm a little off on that corner there. But there you go. You end up with a gazillion, not really, but you end up with quite a few if you're doing 2 inch ones. If you did 2.5 inch ones, you wouldn't end up with quite as many. Some of these are a little stuck together. The nice thing is you don't end up with any extra stitching in the corners doing it this way. So I like that. Oh, that one did, but that was where I had to pivot. So, and you're going to cut that off. So yay, I've got some more little squares that I can work with because I absolutely love these 1.5 inch squares. They work into some beautiful little blocks. If you're doing a 9 patch, you end up with a finished block size that would be 3 inches in a quilt or 3.5 inch unfinished. These are finger pressed before I actually trim them down to 1.5 inch. So I'm going to just give them a light press. I would suggest you press all to one side. Use a clapper or a little iron if you've got it, and let them sit for just a second so they cool. I'm going to press to all the purple. These need to be trimmed, and I prefer to trim when they're pressed. If you use a clapper or one of these old irons, it lays the seams down nice and flat. So when you put your ruler over the top of it to line them up, they're nice and flat, and the ruler doesn't wiggle. So I'll come back with some of these squares all trimmed up, and we'll look at putting a couple of blocks together.